Hello and welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are here to recap what took place last night on May 24th, 2025, for this edition of Saturday Night Main Event. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. We kicked things off with a surprise. It was a surprise to me, anyways. Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker versus Sami Zayn and CM Punk. Um, the match was good, I thought. The commercials always bother me a bit on these shows, and that's the last I'm going to mention it till maybe the end. But yeah, going forward, I won't mention the commercials, although it does kind of take you out. I know it's on free television, but still, that is an aspect that kind of bothers me a bit. Yeah, the end of the match comes down when Bronson Reed comes out of the crowd, takes down CM Punk, and then Braun gets the spear on Sami Zayn to win. After the match, Bronson comes in because keep in mind we have this huge history between Bronson and Seth. Bronson took Seth out for quite some time, and we weren't really sure what was going on. And then Punk tries to come back in the ring and he gets a tsunami from Bronson Reed for his troubles. And it appears that Bronson Reed is now part of this new faction that is Seth, Paul Heyman, and Braun Breaker. KP, what'd you make of this outcome? Did you see it coming? I assume not. I assume you didn't see Bronson Reed joining. But what did you think of the match and what did you think of the outcome?
Did I see it coming? Nope. No, I did not. What did I make of the match? I thought it was pretty good, actually. I thought it was a nice paced tag team contest. I think it went basically the way that, it was naturally going to go. Sami and Punk, getting into a bit of a rhythm and then ultimately being halted at the end. I think we said on our predictions, I wasn't entirely sure how this one was going to go. I think, any of these four men really could have done with the win. So, both teams could have done with that victory in the end. But, Seth and Bron does make more sense in the long term. So, yeah, to see them get the win here is ultimately the correct decision. But yeah, Bronson Reed coming out, I had absolutely no idea that was ever going to take place. I didn't think for a minute that was going to happen. So, a very nice surprise, very welcome one. And yeah, definitely interesting because obviously you mentioned it, the history between Seth and Bronson Reed. That's going to be quite fascinating to see how they sort of like address that because they're going to have to mention it. They're going to have to go over that because it was a bit of time that Seth was out because of Bronson Reed. So yeah, I'm definitely keen to see how exactly they play that one out. But no, yeah, decent enough match, good for sure. I liked, yeah, I like the fact that we get Bron and Bronson now because Bron was known as the heavy. So what does that make Bronson? So that's quite interesting. He's like the ultra heavy, I guess you could say here from here. But no, very very keen for this one. Looking forward to seeing how the group sort of like goes along with the addition of Bronson Reed coming on in. And yeah, decent enough match for sure. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think the addition of Bronson at the end sort of like helped out here quite a lot. But yeah, good enough and a great start to the show. To be fair.
Yeah, I think the surprise was certainly there. I think it certainly helped the match, and I think we both kind of alluded to on the predictions that I think it would be weird for Seth and Braun to lose here. Obviously, they didn't, but yeah, I think for me the biggest takeaway is how do you explain Braun Breaker joining forces with Seth Rollins? I'm sure, as you mentioned, we'll see a lot to that. But yeah, for me, this one gets a 6.5 out of 10. It was a fun kickoff to the show. So with that, we get into the next contest of the evening, which shows Chelsea Green and Zelina Vega. This was announced on SmackDown the night before that we were going to get this match. Yeah, for me, this one was fine as well. Felt a bit quick, a bit rushed, perhaps. But yeah, but to me, the takeaway being even though Zelina's outnumbered 3-1, still can't get Chelsea back her title. So yeah, for some reason, I kind of had my hopes. Granted, we didn't have much time to think or talk about it, but I kind of felt like that Chelsea might get her title back here, but she couldn't do it. So thinking maybe Chelsea might be done with the U.S. title scene. Not sure, but what'd you make of this one, KP? Did you feel like it's a good match and or the right choice?
I don't mind the choice of Zelina winning. I think the way they went about it was pretty poor. I think the match itself wasn't great. Um, I I don't really have anything good to say about this. I think that Piper and Alba are basically made to look like fools on the outside. I don't think this match did anybody any favors whatsoever. Zelina getting the win, you could argue that it's good for her because she overcame the numbers game, but I don't really feel like she did a lot to basically be triumphant over those numbers because of the actions of Piper and Alba on the outside, just turning their backs and waving flags and looking around, whatever, into the audience. It just makes them look stupid. So yeah, I don't know. I really didn't rate the finish, didn't rate the match itself. I thought it was really, really poor. And for what was basically thrown in at the last minute, with nothing really sort of going into it, I was remaining hopeful that this could have been a good opportunity to get women on the card and to showcase, a story that, has been sort of developing bits and bits here and there. But I just really, really, really feel like it under-delivered, and I'm kind of disappointed about that. Zelina botching the 619 and then just kicking Chelsea in the face, making her bleed. That was really poor as well. And then the finish was, it was good, Code Red Avalanche style. But it just looked really sloppy and a bit just not full of quality. This one, I gave it a 3 out of 10. It was there. It showcased two women. Chelsea now maybe moving on outside of the US title picture, I guess you could say, like you glossed over. We'll have to see where she goes from there, but yeah, just poor.
Not too higher than yourself, but I did give it a 4.5 out of 10. That's the 619, getting caught up in the ropes. I've always had the issue with the 619 because no one does it like Ray, and not that everyone should be able to, but I feel like one good quality of doing that would be consistently pulling off the move. And you see with a lot of people that try to do the 619, it just doesn't look very effective. And so getting caught up in the ropes, having Chelsea try to probably figure out what's going on and getting a kick right in the nose for her troubles. Can't think that was probably the best day at the office for either of them. But as I kind of mentioned before, it felt like this match was just a bit rushed. And so maybe they, and that's an issue I'm going to mention at the end too. These entire shows just feel like they're rushed. I know it's not supposed to be a full-blown PLE per se, but it does feel like a lot of these matches, and my biggest gripe is it didn't get enough time. And so this one definitely fell into that trap for me. So, it's with them announcing it on Friday, even this was probably hey, we don't have any women on this card. We should probably put one on there. And they did. And I think, it's probably the worst match of the night. So probably just would have been better to keep them off. But without that, we'll move on to the next match of the evening, which has John Cena and R-Truth. I always make a note on our predictions that in terms of order of which the matches are, I feel like usually we're pretty close, at least somewhat on. I couldn't have been more off on these. I never would have had John Cena and R-Truth in the middle of the card. But with that being said, we talked about this on the predictions, and this was a non-title match. For what reason, we couldn't quite understand, but thought that, maybe that would end up providing some shenanigans that allowed R-Truth to get a win in one way, shape, or form. It didn't. This was pretty one-sided, I think. R-Truth got to hit all of Cena's moves on him, but then brought in the belt. Ref took it from John, and then John Cena did, his heelish John Cena things, and takes out R-Truth with the low blow, and then gave Truth the AA for the win. And then after the match for his troubles, he takes a belt across the dome, and that's that. I think essentially, I don't want to say a squash match, but it wasn't far from that. KP, you have anything nicer to say about this one?
Not an awful lot nicer. No, not really. You've done a very good job of summarizing it, so there's not really much else for me to say. But I did like the fact that R-Truth basically was just trying to be the actual John Cena, coming on out to his proper entrance and, given the sort of vibe and demeanor that obviously Cena's done for so many years now. So I guess we've really got the good and the bad Cena here in this one. I like the fact that on commentary they were referring to Truth as Ron Cena. I don't know. I thought that was quite amusing. But I mean, this one was your average TV match, I think is a good way of describing it. You had, the guy that was obviously always going to win if this was a championship match, coming on out and looking strong. The underdog fights back. Ultimately, doesn't get it across the line, and the favorite then turns things up and gets the victory in the end. So obviously via heelish antics here, but yeah, it was your average TV contest, and there's a reason why this was on Saturday Night's Main Event and not PLE. I gave it a 4.5 out of 10. It just felt like it was there, and a little bit better than Zelina and Chelsea, because there were no serious like botches or like it actually had some sort of like good story to it, and it there were entertaining moments during the matchup. So that's basically my reasoning to put it a little bit higher than the previous match. But yeah, it was it was one that we've done. We can move on from now, and we will talk about Cena a little bit more later on.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, I guess, and that is it was entertaining for what it was. It was just very quick, and I still don't understand, and maybe we never will, why the title wasn't on the line. If Cena was going to always win like that, what was the point of not putting it on there? It felt like that was kind of a throwing us for a loop to just throw us for a loop, I guess. Maybe just get the fans talking. I suppose in that aspect, at least for us, it did. So I don't know. I guess we'll move on. I guess rating. I give that one a 5 out of 10. I can't believe I rated a John Cena match higher than you, but it is what it is. We move on. Next match we have, and what I would argue is one of probably the best matches of the night: Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. I felt like this one was a pretty good back and forth. Did a good job of showcasing the rivalry that we've seen between these guys, and the takeaway here, I guess, being Damian getting the win and Jesse Devati Ventura throwing out the point on Saturday Night Main Event. I've always said about these matches, and KP is probably mocking me right now, and that is that you shouldn't be able to walk out of a cage, steel cage match. It just takes away from so much and makes it feel so anticlimactic. But yeah. KP, I guess you called this one. Damian did get the win here. So now I'm kind of thinking, originally I was thinking this would probably be the end of it. But now I'm sitting here thinking, no way Drew's going to take, he got laid out with the concerto, and Damian comfortably walked out of the door. So I can't imagine this is the end of it now. I was kind of hoping it was. Perhaps that was wishful thinking. But yeah, I thought this was a good match. Finish aside, I'm never going to rate a steel cage match where someone just walks out of the door highly. It's just a pet peeve of mine, and it is what it is, and I'll move on. But KP, what did you think of this one? Did you feel like this was worthy of the rivalry that we've built up so far for this one?
That's a difficult question to answer. I think that the rivalry really could have just ended at WrestleMania. We had that little overlapping thing at Backlash, and obviously we're now going into this match of Saturday Night's Main Event. I don't think this really added anything to it. Yeah, it gave Damian a win over Drew, which ultimately he would have wanted. But I mean, besides that, what are we really going to take away from this? It's just a manner of payback, essentially, right? But yeah, I mean, the match was fun. It was good. It was a steel cage contest. Up until the finish, it was basically something that I think many people probably would have enjoyed. That finish was poor. Just the fact that you had there's such a brutal and personal rivalry for many weeks, months. I mean, Cole even said that this goes back a couple of years. For then to have Damian Priest hit a concerto, which fits, that's good, and then just to walk out the cage, I feel like is just a very strange decision. I mean, they could have had Priest just like roll over McIntyre and cover him. That means he's won. He's put him down. He's got the pin over him. That's bragging rights, and that's him putting his opponent down and getting the victory over him, not escaping to the point where you're literally opening the cage door and you're just walking out, watching him as you're walking out. Like, I don't know, it just felt a really strange call to me as well. But yeah, it didn't really match the intensity that the rivalry brought. And if that is the end, Cole did say on commentary that it's going to end tonight. I mean, I think that's an interesting thing to say so clearly. I don't know if it is going to end it. I mean, you got one win each, so naturally a rubber match, is demanded here, probably from either man, really. So yeah, it's one of those weird things. But if it does end here, either way, I'd be happy with that. If it doesn't end, then we go into one more, and I guess that goes to Money in the Bank. But yeah, it's interesting for sure. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I liked the match, but the finish was just poor. And this is what Saturday Night's main event matches are to me, basically. So it's one of those things. Like I don't think I'm ever going to give it a match higher than a 7. This is like probably up there with the better of them. But yeah, just my sort of general takes. It just was a bit meh.
I would be absolutely flabbergasted if this was the end. Um, Drew just being Drew, like there's no way he's going to be like, okay, I guess I'm done. I guess you're done with me. I'm done with you. After getting that finish and him walking out, I don't know how much I kind of got this feeling, and you can feel free to bring this, respond to this if you want. But Jesse the Body Ventura very much feels like he's going off script a lot. Doesn't at all match the tone of any of the other announcers. And it feels like everyone else that is kind of doing commentating with him is always kind of having to work around whatever he says. Like they're not expecting what he says. I could be off there, but when he was going off about the finish and specifically the walking out of the thing, walking out of the cage, that was like I'm like screaming to the TV. I'm like, yes, someone please note this. They need to get rid of the door. Just get rid of the door altogether, and I will like steel cages again. But sometimes it works, but most of the time, 99% of the time, it doesn't. So that's my bit there. Yeah, let's move on to the next match. We have the main event, which I guess it does make sense. I thought it would either be first or last, and so being last, makes sense, I guess. Logan Paul versus Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. If the last match, I guess, wasn't the best match of the night, which I just realized I forgot the rating. Yeah, I'll give that one a 6.5 on the last one. But for this one, I think if that last one wasn't the best match, I would probably say this one was. I probably, I don't know. They're kind of both up in the air. But anyways, I feel like this was a good back and forth until John Cena appears. John Cena makes his presence felt, and I think Jay was in terms of how the evening was going, in terms of how long the matches were. I think Jay was about to win the match. John comes in, takes out Jay, and then he's taken out by a returning Cody Rhodes. I don't think we've seen him since WrestleMania. KP, correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Cody grabs the mic and says, "You've done enough." And then obviously that ends the match at DQ. But then Cody says that you've done enough, and Jay and I, being Jay and Cody, will see Logan and Cena at Money in the Bank. KP, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, photo at Disney aside, this is the first time I think I've seen Cody since WrestleMania. It's as a main event for Satellite's main event with main event Jey Uso in. It was there. It happened. I don't know. I just can't get excited at the moment about this whole situation. The fact that we've now just turned this into a tag team matchup, it seems very rushed, which is a very fitting description for everything that's really taken place throughout the night. But yeah, I think because of those ads, and I'm gonna bring these up. The first time I've done so, I'm allowed one. The ads just don't allow you to enjoy a match properly on these shows. I think that for those of us who do have Netflix and whatever subscriptions are in the US, like Peacock, for example, I think we should have an option to watch these without ads. I think just to sort of be able to enjoy it a bit more. For those watching on YouTube, fair enough. I think that's a completely fair thing. They get to watch them watch the show for free, and they get to see a bit of wrestling. Then they get the ads because that's obviously part and parcel. But I think they should have a little option in there for those who do have the premium services. So I think it's a bit of a misguided insight there from WWE. But regarding this main event, I mean, it's nothing really I didn't expect to happen with Jey Uso retaining his title and holding on to it, whatever. But obviously the stuff afterwards, yeah. I mean, John Cena coming in to try and help Logan, I would have never had that. Obviously, there was a little interaction earlier on in the night between Jey and Cena, and that was very interesting and telling. And I did think to myself, what does that mean that he's literally going to keep a very close tab on Jay, like he said he is, and he obviously very much did. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things. It was a bit of a strange call. Having Cody come back at Saturday Night's Main Event is fascinating for sure. Obviously, now they're booking a match at Money in the Bank, it makes sense. But yeah, a lot happened when at the same time not a lot happened. It's a weird situation. It's one of those weird sort of like endings to a show. I don't know if I was there, I'd be going home happy. I'd be going home maybe a little bit confused. But yeah, I mean, I give it a 5 out of 10 just because of, generally speaking, it was an okay matchup. But it's so hard to enjoy. I say 7 to get a couple of 7s across the night is quite telling, really. I genuinely don't know how I'd go any higher, but yeah, 5 I think is fair. Logan, he didn't really get the title match that I think he probably should have had. Jay looked particularly sloppy again, as he normally does. I just have a lot of negatives. I'm sorry to bring that down, but I got to be honest here. I got to say exactly what it is that needs to be said. In terms of the show as a whole throughout the night, I think there were definitely a lot of downs, but there were a couple of ups. And I say a couple because there aren't any more than that. It's mainly that opening match I think was the highlight of the show for me, and seeing Big Bronson Reed being inserted into that conversation with Seth and Bron Breakker. Yeah, that's the highlight for me of the show. I gave it a 6 out of 10 throughout the entirety of the night. It was there, it happened, and now we wait a couple of months before the next one, right?
So I just want to go over like the matches and the event and as a whole. But first, I want to talk about kind of one last thing on that main event. We both have a champion we don't like. I think if you listen to these podcasts, you know that at this point. If he doesn't care for Jay, I don't care for John. And so now they're all in the same feud. Historically, KP doesn't love Cody Rhodes. And so now we have, and Logan Paul isn't. I like him a lot better than you do. So now we just have them all jumbled up. So this should be a fun. Maybe after Money in the Bank, this is over. But to me, kind of had me chuckling as I was watching this. I was like, all the people that are biggest issues in WWE are now in the same feud. So this should be a fun couple weeks at least. Like I said, maybe after Money in the Bank, this will be over. I'm looking forward to our reactions. I guess at least if you want to skip a match or skip a segment, now you can at least skip all the same because all of the ones we don't care for right now are in the same match, same feud. So yeah, overall, Saturday Night Main Event. Listen, going forward, going into it, we debated even doing these just because, historically speaking, glorified house shows, not a lot going on. And these shows still have their issues. To me, the biggest is the time allotment and the commercials. Everything seems rushed, and obviously that's probably because of the commercials. So it kind of goes hand in hand. And then the steel cage. That's not really pertinent or specific to the Saturday Night Main Event. That's just an overall issue I have with the match. Maybe everyone else doesn't have a big of an issue, but I do. So it is what it is. As for the pros, yeah, the few surprises we see Bronson Reed join. Bron Breakker and Seth Rollins. I think that's a good surprise. And then we see Cody Rhodes return. I think they did this and no title changes. I think if they had done a title change, I would confidently say they're making sure that we tune into these shows because I don't think a lot of people do. I haven't seen the numbers, but I would love to. I'd love to see the numbers compared to even a B show PLE to see if they're anything close. I can't imagine they are. But with these few surprises, it makes it feel somewhat, worthy of a watch. Even though the matches themselves are watered down, I would say that's a fair statement. But yeah, you have nothing else going on Saturday night. Why not pop it on? A few things you wouldn't have seen live. I think that you have to do those if you're going to call it a PLE or whatever you want to call this. You have to do a few things that are surprising, or we couldn't get on weekly television. Otherwise, no one's going to tune in. So, yeah, I wasn't mad after I watched this last night. I wasn't mad that I watched it. I was, my expectations were already pretty low. They went a bit above that simply because of the surprises. So for what it's worth, I enjoyed myself. I didn't enjoy myself as much as I would have with a regular PLE, obviously. But if you have that expectation still, that's on you. I think that's fair to say. But yeah, overall, good surprises. I think I give this one overall a 5.5 out of 10. You know what? I'll bump it up to a 6. I think a 6 out of 10 feels a bit generous, but there were some good surprises. There are issues with these shows, obviously, and they've been stated. So with that, we will go ahead and wrap this one up. It's as you kind of mentioned, it's hard not to be negative with these shows, even with the positives. The negatives always seem to override the positives, so it kind of is what it is. But yeah, with that, this has been a recap of Saturday Night Main Event from May 24th. And we will be back shortly with a Battleground. We have Battleground tonight. So this should be a nice little palate cleanser from this one. But yeah, until next time, we'll see you then. Take care.